there's going to be a lot of pressure on him in the offseason and next season. I don't know how Texas A&M boosters think. I have no earthly idea. I mean, we can joke about them having all the money in the world, but nobody wants to spend this kind of money to buy a guy out.
Welcome back to the Unbiased Room. Next, we're going to talk about the top 5 head coaches on the hot seat next year. Go ahead and kick us off.
I'm ready for this one. Ready, man. So number 1, I think is everybody's consensus, is Jimbo Fisher. So Jimbo, he in his first 58 games, his record is now 37-21, which is worse than Kevin Sumlin, 42-16. And they fired him mid-season, gone, right? They also lost 24 scholarship athletes to the portal. We can expect an amazing season, or we can just an implosion at Texas A&M, which I'm hoping. I can't wait to see this. I think I think he's gone next year, man.
So you don't think they're going to have a winning record?
Miami's going to beat them.
Okay.
You see their schedule?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The schedule's tough.
Schedule's tough.
Very.
And I don't know, man. I guess they were what, preseason number 6? This is preseason number 6. Mm-hmm. And they just were terrible. Appalachian State lost, and just back to back, like just all the players transferring that they had, and they had a lot of talent in the league.
But they did beat Miami.
Hey man, we're not talking about that
they
game
did.
right now, man. Damn, man. I just gave y'all love, man. This is how y'all repay me.
I agree. I think Jimbo's on the hot seat. I think the only reason he wasn't fired last year was because of the size of his contract. I do think that Bobby Petrino is going to help him, though, because Jimbo was still calling the plays. Now he got to delegate it. Right, so he has nothing to worry. He can't just worry about the offensive side of the ball. He's got to, jump in on that defensive side of the ball, because this is make or break for him.
Yeah,
and like I said, the schedule's tough. I hate to be in his shoes, and I just really think anything below 8-4, 9-3 is not going to be a good season for him.
Oh.
Yeah, so he's definitely his seat is scorching hot.
Yeah, I agree with both of y'all. One of the things that I was thinking about was they had like the number 1 recruiting class of all time, right? That 2021 recruiting class that they brought in, and those boosters that set up those accounts and all that funding that they got to get those players in the door, and they end up losing 27 people to the transfer portal. They have a season like that. If he don't win this year, 9 or 10 win, he's
I'll
gone.
pay that money. Hey man, I'm gonna pay you to leave. You know what I'm saying? They got enough money there to pay him to go.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think he'll be mad. I wouldn't be.
Like I'd be on the couch chilling.
Well, speaking of contract extensions and high contracts, the first one on mine is Mel Tucker. So Mel Tucker just signed a 10-year, $95 million extension in 21, right? Which shocked a lot of people, right? Yeah, they went 11-2, but I'll say one season. And so when he first got there in 20, he was 2-5 because the Big Ten only played the 7 conference games. In 21, he was 11-2, 7-2 in the Big Ten, and then last year, rock bottom again, 5-7, 3-6 in the conference. 6 of their losses were by double digits. 2 of his wins was against MAC teams, right? And then, the one thing that kind of hurt him was when they lost to Michigan, he got 7 players suspended because they was fighting on the way to the locker room. And, it was the Michigan players filed charges against them. Like I say, same situation as Jimbo. Paid a lot of money, but I think the boosters reacted too early, and one of the reasons they paid him so much because it was rumors of him taking the LSU job at that time, right? So
Yeah.
I think he's on the hot seat. He doesn't have a winning record against the big time programs in the Big Ten, and I just see his seat getting hotter and hotter about a year.
So who I had, this is a sleeper, right? I got Mike Gundy out of Oklahoma State. So hear me out here, right? So Mike Gundy, he's been at Oklahoma State for 17 seasons. So he's heading into his 18th season. Out of these 17 seasons, he only has one Big 12 title. Right?
Damn.
Yeah, one Big 12 title. On the plus side, he has been bowl eligible from 2006 to 2022, right? And he is 11-6 in those bowl games. But this year it was a bad year for them, right? They started out good. They started out 6-1, and ended up losing 4 of their last 5. Not including they lost in a bowl game to Wisconsin, right? Mm-hmm. Last 5 seasons, he only has one season over 8 wins. So I mean that's mediocrity. You know what I mean? At some point, somebody's gonna say, "Hey, we've been better than this. We want to be better than this. I think it's time for you to go."
Yeah, that was surprising when you said that. One title in 17 seasons. And Oklahoma State, in that time, they've had a lot of talent come through OK State. They've had a lot.
Yeah.
So that is definitely, when you put it in those terms, that is definitely like, you got to win, man. And I'm looking at their losses here. They lost to West Virginia, Oklahoma, Kansas.
Yeah.
Hey, man, Kansas was a stunner. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, their big wins are against like Central Michigan, Arizona State. I agree with that one. That's something I wasn't seeing, but they have to improve. The Kansas loss probably is there, and then their bowl loss to Wisconsin, 24-17.
And not to mention, they lost 16 players in the
I'm
portal.
just looking at that.
Had a linebacker who was led the team in tackles last year, transferred to USC, which USC needs badly, obviously. But yeah,
I got another one that y'all may disagree, and I said it earlier for the Bill Napier at Florida, and a lot of people are like, but he's in the hole for not being able to. He didn't get Jaden Rashada, right? Anthony Richardson leaves for the league. Kid that gets arrested for child pornography. So they're very thin at quarterback. So they had to bring in Graham Wirtz out of Wisconsin. On top of that, they lost 4 of their 5 starters on offensive line from last year, right? So you got a Big Ten quarterback coming into the SEC with a new offensive line. I just don't see them being competitive against the elite teams in the SEC. So I think it's going to be another subpar year for Florida, and then people down there are going to be wanting some change. When's the last time Florida beat Georgia? It's been a few years,
I think Georgia's won like the last 6 games.
Yeah.
I think Georgia's won the last 6 games, if I'm not mistaken.
After Ron
they got Urban Meyer after runs up.
Yeah.
That Urban Meyer expectation is just unrealistic in Florida. I mean, I don't. You disagree?
Oh, I disagree,
For somebody
brother.
to come in there, they expect national championships in Florida. I think those were some golden years that they had. But other than that.
I mean, it's hard to live up to Urban Meyer's. This guy is a college football GOAT, right? I don't care what anybody says. Everywhere he goes, he wins. That's what he does.
And y'all forget about another piece. Steve Spurrier. Won there. I mean, Spurrier turned Florida around. I disagree. I think Florida's the hotbed of talent. I think Miami, Florida State should always be up. There should be no reason why a player doesn't want to go to one of those 3 schools. I'm sticking in the SEC. My next one is Sam Pittman for Arkansas. He's approaching his 4th season as well. Well, he's approaching his 4th season. First season, he was 3-7. This was in COVID year. 21, he was 9-4. And then this year he was 7-6. He lost to A&M, Bama, Mississippi State, Liberty, LSU, and Missouri. And then he won the bowl game against Kansas 55-53. I just think that Arkansas is regressing, like Ed said. And then you got to look at in 24, Texas and Oklahoma is joining the SEC. It's going to get even tougher, right? And I just kind of wonder, is he the right person for that program? And then one other staggering thing that hit me, his defense, they struggled this year. The scoring defense was number 101. They gave up 30.6 points per game. The total defense, 124. They gave up 464 yards a game. You know, he had the 22nd best recruiting class right now, according to On3. So maybe he's, you know, building back up his resources. But he lost a lot of players in the transfer portal as well. So I'm just curious to see, you know, I think if he's not at least beating some of the big dogs next year, I don't know if he sticks around in Arkansas.
Liberty was surprising. That was a Hugh Freeze led Liberty team that went into Arkansas and beat them. And after a loss like that, you got to be on the hot seat. I mean, especially in the SEC.
So my other person I had on the hot seat, and I think, you know, we all agree with this, right? Not that he's a bad coach, right? Because he hasn't won the big games, and that's Ryan Day. Yeah, I mean, he has 10, 11-win seasons, right? But if you can't beat Michigan, right, you got to go. And he's been to the college football playoffs 3 times and doesn't have a single win. You know, how long are they going to let him continue and, you know, to coach like that?
So, AB, he did have a win because he got to the championship game against Bama in 2020.
Yeah, and
I can't remember who they beat.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know who they beat, but
it must have been a big win because we can't remember who they beat.
Yeah, probably Cincinnati or somebody. Notre Dame. It may have been Notre Dame.
I have to look that up. But Ohio State fan page, right? It's called ScarletandGame.com or something. And the website, they don't even mention Michigan. They just call them TTUN, the team up north, right? But they only that he needs to go if he does not beat Michigan. Because it hasn't been like close games either. They got whooped by Michigan. So they're over there talking about like he's not. It's him as a head coach. He needs to surround himself with better defensive coaches. Overall, he didn't show up for that game. So that's why if he doesn't win, the fan base is going to want him to go. And I agree, though. It's crazy that, you know, he's made it to the college football playoffs. Amazing talent. But, yeah, he's
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with y'all. I've been saying that. I think next year is do or die for him. I think he got lucky that they had a good showing against Georgia, but I still feel some of the game planning at the end of the game came back toward him to put his field goal kicker in a bad position to try to win the game. But if he had a poor showing in that college football playoff game and then not beat Michigan again next year, I can see him being gone. I just don't see the Ohio State fans being happy with him, especially following Urban Meyer.
Yeah,
he's not having the success that Urban had.
And
so they beat Clemson 49-28, and then they got killed by y'all 52-24.
Yeah. In that website also it says that was Ryan Day's best called game was against Georgia of his coaching, like postseason coaching so far. That's the best game he's had. But we still, you know, when you sit back and look, you still poke holes in it towards the end. So that does it for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you check out our channel, like, subscribe, leave a comment. And that's all we got for now. Peace.